You feel like a passenger in your life as things continue to happen to you. Your energy levels are low, you can't find things to look forward to, you're unsure where you're heading, and your life just feels kind of, Well, I'm Coach Jay, and in this episode of the PepTalk Podcast, we are going to solve your motivation issue. Oh, and if you haven't had a good pep talk lately, don't worry, I got you. Let's go. Hey, Pepsi Wad, how's it going? Welcome to the Pep Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, a life coach specializing in mindset development and motivation in DFW. And I want you to consider these weekly episodes like your own weekly one-on-one session with me. I'm talking to you, not at you, cheering you on and providing you some awesome coaching to help you get right. And if you've been rocking with us, and you know the mission of this podcast is to what? That's right. We cheer you on and we coach you up. And what I'm blessed to do is to partner with you, the incredible podcast, the incredible Pep Squad community, to bring a wave of encouragement and challenge into the world. And I count on you all from there to take this message, to take this mission, to take this encouragement with you throughout the week into your conversations and interactions with everyone that you meet. If you've never listened to an episode before, you have picked a great one to start with. Because if you are the person I described in the opening, then we're bringing motivation back. We're bringing your motivation back. And feel free to sing it in the Justin Timberlake fashion if you could make it work. I couldn't. It kind of came out like, I'm bringing motivation back. Yep. So, didn't quite work, but I tried. Now, our journey begins by unraveling the mysterious workings of motivation. What is it? Well, motivation is an internal process. Some people call it a drive, others call it a need. Either way, it's a condition inside of us that is just begging for transformation, a change in self or a change in environment. But it's also energy, and when we tap into it, it can provide the drive, determination, and direction that we need to deeply impact lives, communities, and our world, but especially ourselves. Now, at its essence, motivation should provide us with the impetus to do, to act, and move. Yet, so many people say that they don't have that energy moving through them. Now, I believe, and use this as a guiding principle in my life coaching practice, that motivation is accessible to us all, though some just have blocks to some of the guiding aspects of it. So deep within the intricate tapestry of our brains lies a fascinating neurotransmitter, and I'm geeking out here, known as dopamine. Research conducted by neuroscientists have shown that dopamine plays a crucial role in our motivation and reward system. It's released when we experience pleasure, reinforcing our desire to seek out those pleasurable experiences again and again. And so understanding this science can help us leverage our brain's natural reward system to stay motivated. It also sheds light on why some people experience low motivational instincts. Through prior disappointments, trauma, unmet expectations, or any number of other reasons, many of us don't allow ourselves to experience the dopamine necessary to be motivated. Our society today seems to be built on self-medication rather than self-motivation. When we can come home and binge any number of streaming services while ingesting any number of foods that send us into carb-induced comas, then the things that we really need and want to do are lulled into a false sense of permanent napping. It's like a television show where a person has been drugged for so long that they forget basic bodily functions, allowing ourselves to fall comatose within our own lives, willingly drugging ourselves to stifle feelings of dissatisfaction, anxiety, etc. It all does more harm than good. But we know this. Then what feeds motivation? So, groundbreaking work in this was done by Wolfram Schultz, a professor of neuroscience at the University of Cambridge. And it shed some light on the link between dopamine and motivation. Schultz's research showed that dopamine release is not only associated with the actual reward, but also with the anticipation of the reward. This knowledge can empower us to structure our goals and tasks in a way that triggers our brain's reward system, sustaining our motivation as we progress. So it's not just that we do it, it's the anticipation of the reward. So you may not even get the reward, but the anticipation of getting it is enough to trigger the dopamine rush that we need to sustain the actual doing. It's like I tell my kids that, every time you clean your room, you are going to get an ice cream cone. Now, they have that reward system in place. And it gets to a point that at some point, not even having the ice cream cone, but just knowing that it's coming is enough to get them to clean their rooms. And it's the same thing with you. If you can get your brain to a point where the anticipation of the feeling of the reward is enough, that can often be enough to shift your brain into a motivational process and a motivational cycle. Now, I'm going to be a little bit reductive here with this next analogy, but just stick with me, okay? So goals to motivation are like magic beans in the fairy tale to the giant sprouting stalk that led to the goose that lays a golden egg. Probably not the best analogy. However, goals are powerful, and there is no motivation without them. As someone who for a long time was goals averse, I've discovered that even when we don't consciously set goals, we are still setting goals. We just don't want to openly talk about them. In any situation, we have expectations for how we want things to go, and our minds naturally cycle through all of the different permutations of what it looks like to go with various outcomes and counter moves. Those are goals. So whether you outwardly admit it or not, you are a goal setter. You may just prefer to do it more privately than publicly, maybe because you don't think that you'll actually meet the goal or whatever. But when we're talking about motivation, the most powerful goals are the ones that we set outwardly, directly and meaningfully, and with clarity. And therein lies one of the biggest problems with sustaining motivation. When is the last time that you set a meaningful goal for yourself? How do you define what a meaningful goal even is? According to Habitify, a meaningful goal is one that brings on intrinsic or inward motivation and adds exponential value over the years by making you more effective in that chosen goals area, while allowing you to be a more authentic version of yourself. So basically, a meaningful goal makes you feel good on the inside while adding a bastion, a treasure trove of value to you over the years, which enables you to be a more authentic version of yourself. So meaningful goals may look like this. I will turn my passion into a career. I will get good at being me. I will clean up my diet. I will travel for experience. I will cultivate intimacy in my relationships. Now, I know you're asking, Jay, what makes these meaningful? Well, focused, dedicated work day by day over months and years will multiply the benefits to your life, your interactions with others, your happiness, and your overall self. And each of those goals that I just mentioned are meant to accomplish just that. These are the things that help someone create life on their terms. And it also provides a steady source of self-motivation for you to draw upon. These goals are like everlasting batteries that may require some changing here and there, but the energy never completely runs out. And if we're doing this right, y'all, while I love that you come here and listen to me to get a motivational pep talk every week, ideally, in a perfect world, you don't need me, because the goals that you're setting for yourself are enough to keep you sustained and to keep you empowered. If I were to inhabit a world where people did not need me to be their life coach, I'd be happy. But because I know that there are people who struggle with being self-motivated, I went into practice for myself to become a life coach so that I could be a help to people who need the strategies to get them there, with the hope that at some point they won't need me because they have the systems and processes in place to coach themselves. So numerous studies conducted by researchers Edwin Locke and Gary Latham have demonstrated the profound impact of goal setting on motivation and performance. Their research has shown that setting specific and challenging goals enhances motivation and leads to higher levels of achievement. Moreover, psychologists have explored the concept of goal orientation and its impact on motivation. Also, Carol Dweck, Carol Dweck is famous for her growth mindset research. But her studies have revealed that individuals who believe their abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work are more likely to set challenging goals and maintain motivation, even in the face of setbacks. So what do I say all of this to say? Well, number one, if you find your motivation is dead, turn off the television, quit self-medicating, and start self-motivating. And number two, if you find your motivation waning or non-existent, then it's time to conduct a review of your goals. Are they sustaining you? Are they challenging you? Are they pushing you forward or are they holding you back? Are they creating the version of life you want to live? Are they affecting change for you? But not just for you, also for those around you. Answer those questions and then go back and make changes to the goals that you're setting. Or if you're not setting goals, what better way to start than right now? No, seriously, press pause on the pod and start setting some goals and then come back once you have some written. But we're going to continue. So within each of us resides an extraordinary force. An intrinsic motivation, that flows from our core. And decades in the field of research in self-determination theory, pioneered by psychologists like Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, they've shown that tapping into our intrinsic motivation is essential for sustaining long-term drive. This theory emphasizes the importance of three psychological needs: autonomy, compliance, and relatedness. Now, their studies, as well as other researchers in the field, have consistently demonstrated that when our goals align with our values, interests, and passions, we experience a deep-rooted motivation that withstands challenges and fuels our perseverance, which leads to higher levels of engagement, satisfaction, and overall well-being. Because we know that our lives are not without trials, right? Every day, and I've heard pastors say this before, that we're either going into a challenge or we are coming out of it. And either way, we have to be prepared for the next round of challenge, the next round of trial, the next setback, all of these things. And research into positive psychology and resilience has highlighted the importance of overcoming obstacles and building resilience for maintaining motivation. Psychologists Anna Ducksworth and Martin Seligman, have extensively studied the concept of grit, which is the perseverance and passion for long-term goals. Their research has shown that individuals with high levels of grit are more likely to bounce back from setbacks and maintain their motivation in the face of adversity. Furthermore, studies have shown that the relationship between grit and achievement have revealed that grittier individuals are not only more likely to accomplish their goals, but also tend to experience higher levels of well-being. When people have more grit, they tend to have more motivation. They look at setbacks as opportunities for bounce backs, and they might even often say that the greater the setback, the greater the bounce back. So I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but whatever setback you felt, maybe you felt like it's pushed you to your basement. Guess what? Your bounce back will be at least as much as your setback, but the bounce back is often at least twice as much. So get ready. Get ready. Grit is perseverance in action and mindset. It's resilience. And while I hate how mainstream the word has become, like it's everywhere, I really can't dismiss the power of it. So because I'm your life coach, and because this is your weekly one-on-one session, I want to give you some tips to help you develop grit if you don't think you already do. And I promise you that a healthy amount of grit is like Miracle Grow to anybody's motivation. And if you are too young, you don't know what Miracle Grow is, it is this chemical that you spray on plants and it causes them to grow like crazy. Grit, when properly implemented into your life, will bring the exponential growth that we've talked about before. So I'm giving you two things right here that are going to help you form a healthy amount of grit in your life. And number one is keep living. Just keep living. The older people get, the grittier they get. Notice I didn't say grouchy, although that happens too. But the older we get, the grittier we get. Because we've lived through enough hardship to know that life does not end because you didn't get the job or because the difficulties didn't come around. They know due to life experiences that there is a morning after you get fired or your stock portfolio crashes to the ground. Life keeps going. They recognize that though some things suck, they were better for having gone through them. There's always a tomorrow. And they know that there is always a way forward because life keeps moving forward. My mom used to always, and she still says this to this day, she would always look at me and say when I was having a bad day, this too shall pass. And somebody out there, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and you just need to say, this too shall pass, because it will. If you keep living, you will develop the requisite amount of grit that will enable you to overcome any circumstance and maintain your motivation. And then number two, read. That's right. I said it. I read. I'm an English teacher and I'm telling you to what? Read. You're like, Coach Jay, I don't like to read. I'm still saying you got to read. So in lieu of having those life experiences yourself, try borrowing from the experiences of others. Science has proven that reading biographies is a great way to level up your resilience without enduring the hardship on your own. Reading about the lives of others helps you to internalize their lessons without actually going through them yourself, giving you the reserves to draw upon when you feel like throwing in the proverbial towel. So, keep living and go grab you a book. Matter of fact, make you a Goodreads account and find you some great biographies to read. I can recommend one by Stephen A. Smith that is tremendous. It's so good. Oh, also Dave Grohl. Yeah, y'all need to read that one too. So we're going to take a quick break. Go ahead and get greedy. Tap into your motivation on this break and jam to the music. We'll be right back. Episode 24 of the PepTalk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay. Be right back. And welcome back to episode 24 of the PepTalk Podcast. I am Coach Jay, and today we are bringing your motivation back. And we have talked about stopping the self-medicating, drowning yourselves in the streaming services and all of these things. We have talked about how you need grit, how grit translates into motivation. I want to talk about something else, and that something else is kind of founded in some studies that were done by psychologists Nicole Hargis and Patrick Williams. They did some research into the impact of physical surroundings on motivation, focus, and productivity. And here's what they discovered. They discovered that clean and organized physical environments can positively influence motivation and cognitive function. Now, I don't have clean and organized physical spaces, but I want to take that a little bit further. Okay. I'll say it like this. You need to find you a sanctuary of inspiration, a space that uplifts and nurtures your spirit, your motivation. And if you don't have that kind of environment around you, you have to find a way to create it. Your motivation is depending on it. Your creativity is locked until you can find it. Your goals remain stagnant until you find it. So if you cannot create that clean and organized physical space at home, maybe you have it at work. I don't know. I know sometimes I can get a lot more done creatively at work than I can when I get home because there's so much more that's required of me. And let's face it, with 5 kids, we got kids all over the place. However, another alternative that I can offer you is to get out in nature, breathe fresh air, not the recycled artificial air that's pumped into our homes, but get out in the air. Like, one of the beautiful things about COVID was I saw so many people outside walking around, right? Because there was really nothing to do inside. People got tired of streaming everything, watching every new movie that was supposed to come to cinemas. And so people were out and people were playing and walking their dogs. And even in the midst of all of the stress of that, people looked relieved because they were outside. So get outside, laugh at silly dogs and silly cats, not online, but in real life. Eat good food, laugh deep, love hard, fail some more, then get up, laugh it off and try again. Celebrate everything. Become the CEO of your life. CEO in this case stands for the celebrating everything officer. Become the CEO of your life. And in doing this and doing all of these things, you will reduce your stress and you will unlock motivation, new wells of motivation in your life. Because in the end, everybody, motivation is all about living. It's about life, living life and not watching everybody else around you do theirs. When you become a watcher of everybody else and you begin to deal with the imposter syndrome and the comparison that we talked about in the last episode, so many people have pressed pause on their lives and have pressed play on their television, their video games, or other coping mechanisms. But I challenge you now to press pause on all of those things and now press play on your life. Press play on your life. You deserve to live. People around you need to see you live. You need to rediscover your motivation so that the things that are in you to create, to produce, to release into the earth can be released. People need what you have inside of you. I keep saying it over and over again. People need what you have inside of you. And it doesn't matter who tells you no. It doesn't matter the doors that are shut in your face. When you develop the grit to look over and through and past those things, beyond those things, to what's waiting for you on the other side, your motivation will always flare up and you'll always be ready to go and move on to the next thing. Now, as we bring this remarkable conversation to a close, remember that motivation is not just a fleeting visitor, but it's supposed to be a lifelong companion. It's there for us to experience. It is there to power us. We simply have to make the adjustments necessary to allow it full access to our lives. And so our quote of the day comes from acclaimed philosopher Confucius. And he wrote, "Our greatest glory is not never in failing." I'm sorry, let me say that again. Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. I'm going to say that again because I messed it up the first time. Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. Folks, that is grit. That is grit. Get you some. So thank you all for hanging with me for episode 23 of the PepTalk Podcast. This has been Motivation is my wheelhouse. It is one of the core reasons why I do everything that I do. It's one of the core reasons why I do this podcast, and we are now 24 episodes strong, because I want you to find your motivation so that you can do the discovery to see what is special about you, because people need you. People need what you have. People need the books that you have to write, the songs you have to write, the poetry you have to write, the speeches you have to give, the products and services you have to invent. People need it, but in order for them to get it, you have to motivate yourself to be able to get there. You need to have people around you who are hyping you up. I'm not talking about gassing, because gas is empty. But you need people who are hyping you up with substance and sustenance that is for the expressed purpose designed to helping you become who you want to come. But in the end, it lies with you. What are you going to do with this life that you have to live? Y'all, this has been episode 24 of the PepTalk Podcast, where we cheer you on and we coach you up. I am your host, Coach Jay, a life coach in DFW, and it has been my pleasure and my honor to have this weekly session with you. We'll see you next week for episode 25, and y'all know how we always end it. Keep it love, keep it light, and keep it peppy. Love you guys. I'll see you next time.